I'm Bob Gallagher, the mayor of the city of Bettendorf, Iowa. Today is Friday, February 2nd, 2024. We're at our downtown State Street Fire Station today with Lieutenant Andy Sheehan and firefighter Ian Barnhouse. They're going to give you some tips for some stuff coming up. Welcome to the Mayor's Message, Andy. Thanks so much for being here, buddy.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you for having me.
Yeah. So tell us about next week. We've got a theme for next week. What's going on next week?
Yeah, so next week is what we call Burn Awareness Week.
Okay.
And
happens every year?
Every year. We try to get that out there for awareness. And the topic this year is actually going to be flammable liquids.
Okay.
Okay. So I wanted to bring you into our kitchen and talk a little bit about some scolds and burns related to liquids and flammable liquids for that same topic.
Fantastic. So we're here in the kitchen. By a coffee maker, obviously.
That's correct.
I drink it almost all day long. So talk to me
Yes.
about flammable liquids in this coffee maker.
So one of the things that we're going to talk about with coffee is that it's prevalent in most homes. It's in every fire station across the country. We drink a lot of it. So this one is more related to scolds versus flammable. The biggest thing is that every coffee maker is different. The temperatures are different.
Sure.
And so one of the biggest things is we want to keep the coffee maker as best as we can away from the edge of the counter. And that includes when we're drinking our coffee, trying not to set our coffee cups to the end. We actually bring them away from the end. And a lot of times that's because at home, we have little ones around and things like that. It's very easy. They want to try to grab things off the counter, and grabbing a coffee pot, even if it's to help out pour coffee for like a birthday for mom or dad, things like that, that's a very easy thing for them to get a scald or burn, whether it gets poured onto them or whether they were to touch the actual coffee pot itself, because that is a very hot coffee pot and it can actually burn them. So starting with coffee, that's a big thing that we want to be aware of.
What else in the kitchen?
Another thing that we don't have here, because we actually don't have it in the firehouse, is things like your deep fryers. So your actual grease type of fryers where you actually drop food into the grease. A lot of times those things are countertop units.
Sure, like a Fry Daddy or something on the
Yep, that's exactly right.
Different than using the stovetop.
Not the dry ones, but the actual wet ones where it's fluid inside. Same thing with those is we want to keep those away from the counters, the edge of the counter, because those have handles that are right in the front of those.
Sure.
It's very easy for someone to grab one of those and pour it down onto them, or they get a little bit of kind of a steam burn from it, and it makes them want to drop it, and then that hot grease gets everywhere.
Sure.
And if it's on the counter, it can also get into the sink where we have water and things like that, which likes to create flammable liquids. Likes to flame, get a little bit of hot
common
flame
sense
going
about
on.
where to put these type of items, right?
That's correct. So common sense and awareness of where we're going to put those things on the counter.
Just think about it, because it's a hot liquid.
Exactly. So anytime you're working with hot liquids, just be very cautious and think of what you're doing. Make sure that that's your primary focus at that time. One of the things I do want to definitely talk about in the sense of flammable liquids is we don't have any food in here right now. We did cook some this morning, but a lot of times we're cooking things like ground meat where it has a lot of that grease built in. And what's very common is a lot of people actually take that and they will move it to somewhere in the counter or a different location. They will
sink, drain it,
and they'll drain
or
off
over top of
that grease.
Garbage.
That's correct, which we do not want to do. However, one of the biggest things that happens is the flame stays on. That grease is actually dripped over the edge of the pan, and it's returned right back to the same burner.
So the grease will catch.
The grease is going to catch fire, and that's where we get that flammable liquid.
Okay.
A couple awareness things to do is obviously turning off a burner. If we're going to do that, putting it onto a separate burner instead of the same burner you return it from, or things like hot pads that are on the counter. You can put that pan right on the hot pad and keep it away from that burner, hopefully avoiding flammable fire. One of the things we don't want to do, though, is if that thing does catch fire for some reason, because we had that grease spill over, we brought it back. We don't want to take that pan and rush it right over to the kitchen sink and turn that water on. In return, we get that huge fireball from it, and that creates even more chances for burns and scalds. So we want to try to avoid those things.
So what do we do? It's on fire now.
So a couple things we want to do, that in the industry that we've talked about is possibly laying like a hand towel over it to smother it, a lid to smother it. But the biggest thing is if you have a chance to turn off the flame, turn it off.
This is a gas stove, a little different.
This happens to be a gas
even
versus
if it's an electric stove, there's enough heat in the coil that you could end up setting that grease on fire.
That's correct, because it will create an ignition.
It'll drop onto it. Yep.
One of the biggest things you don't want to do is if you happen to have a stove like the one behind you that has burners that are over the top, we don't want to reach over that and try to turn that on, off, because that's where we can actually create further burns to ourselves.
Sure.
If all else fails, remove yourself from the home, call 911, and that's where we come into play and try to help protect the rest of your property. So.
Perfect. Perfect. So I know you're very involved in an organization that relates to burn victims. Tell us about that organization.
Yes, sir. I'm actually one of the board of directors for an organization that's called the St. Florian Burn Foundation. We're actually an organization that deal with burn survivors who have had some sort of significant burn injury to themselves, and most of the time have gone to like a burn unit, like here in Iowa.
Okay.
The University of Iowa has a burn unit here.
Sure. That's the one that anybody around here would end up heading
most
to
of the time,
for
correct.
treatment.
Yes, that's correct. So with this organization,
it's a nationwide organization?
This is actually through the state of Iowa.
Okay.
There are actually 50 burn organizations in the country. Here we actually do the support programs for the state of Iowa and a couple of the surrounding. So maybe somebody that lived in Illinois, we're in the Quad Cities, and maybe they're flown to the University of Iowa instead of flown to the Illinois one. We would support those survivors and their family members as well.
Okay.
This
Tell
organization,
about some of these programs that you do for this support.
Okay. So we have a couple staple programs for this organization. One is what's called Miracle Burn Camp. One is called YABS, which means Young Adult Burn Survivors. One is Family Burn Camp.
Okay.
And then we have a couple local across the state, what's called Burn Survivor Togethers. Our staple program is called Miracle Burn Camp.
What's a burn camp?
So Miracle Burn Camp, and I appreciate you asking. For us in the state of Iowa, it's called Miracle Burn Camp. That's the title of it. We actually send burn survivors that are 7 to 17 years old to a week-long summer camp to help them have the best week of their entire year. This allows them to be around in a camp atmosphere, other burn survivors that have significant burn injuries, that have physical scars, that have the same mental things that they're going through, things that they're going through at home and at school. It allows them to be in the same atmosphere for an entire week, and that they can see and understand that they're not the only ones going through it, and it helps in that support process of moving forward in their burn survivor journey.
Cool. So you're obviously raising money for this. How do you raise money, and how can people get involved in supporting St. Florian?
So one of the biggest things that they can do is they can go to our website for St. Florian, which is www.stflorianfireandburnfoundation.com. I know that was a mouthful.
We'll get it up there, and they'll be able to do it.
And
you'll find
through our website, we have donation options.
Okay.
But we do also put on various support programs throughout the state. So chili cook-offs, golf tournaments, things like that. We host a golf tournament here locally that you've been to a few times. We play it almost every year.
Yeah, it's awesome.
And so through the website, we have various links and opportunities for people to support those things. And then if you're a burn survivor, reach out to us. We're happy to have you on board and help provide support for you and your family members. And one big thing here locally is we take you guys to a baseball game and help support that journey. So we call it touching lives and supporting the journey.
Excellent. Well, thank you for that great work that you do. Now let's head out to the garage and listen to Ian tell you some stories about how to keep yourself safe from flammable liquids outdoors.
Thanks, Mayor. Thanks, Lieutenant Sheehan. With this year's theme being preventing flammable liquid burn injuries, we just wanted to do a few safety tips, some do's and don'ts of using gasoline specifically. First of all, use gas outdoors only and store in cool, well-ventilated areas. If you are using a grill and it happens to be a charcoal grill, use fluid labeled charcoal grill starter fluid only, certainly not gasoline. Keep gas in a secure location, like an upper shelf or a flammable liquids cabinet, and out of the reach of children. Using containers like this one or others that have been labeled or approved for gasoline. And then finally, with this being snowblower season, if you are filling that snowblower or any other equipment, fill the equipment with the gas when the engines are cool, and preferably outdoors. And finally, some do nots. Please do not use gasoline near a flame source like burning leaves or brush. Do not use gasoline as a cleaning fluid. That is not what it's for. Do not store inside your home. And please, if you are and when you are dispensing gasoline into a portable container, like at the gas station, please do not have that container inside your vehicle or inside the truck bed. In the event of a burn injury, if your clothes are on fire or skin is on fire, smother those flames and remove yourself or someone else from that flame source. Call 911 if those burns are serious. In case of a more minor burn, cool those burns with cool, not cold water, and cover with a clean, dry dressing or bandage. Thanks very much. Please be safe out there.
Well, thanks for joining us. Hopefully you learned a little something about flammable liquids and how you can better protect yourselves. Until next time, have a great weekend.